go ahead and get started. All right, hello everyone. Thank you for joining me for the second part of this series. I know schedules have been kind of crazy, so I do appreciate you joining me today. Today we're going to talk a little bit more in depth about nutrition and how to create a balanced meal, and a little bit more in depth about micronutrients, macronutrients, and kind of their role in health. So let's go ahead and get started. For those of you who were not here last time, there is a handout that kind of goes along with this presentation. So I'll go ahead and drop that link in the chat. So if you'd like to follow along while we talk about some things today, you are more than welcome to do that. And today we're going to talk about how to create a balanced diet. We're going to talk more about micronutrients and macronutrients, and then how to read nutrition labels to actually make those healthy decisions, and then end with some recipe ideas and an activity. And if you are joining on Zoom, we're doing an activity in person. So you're more than welcome to stay on at the end after the presentation material is over and kind of see what we're doing. And as for questions, so we do have time for the activity in person. I ask that you hold questions. You can drop them in the chat if you'd like, but I probably won't have time to answer them during the presentation. However, I'm more than happy to answer them via email. So if you drop them in the chat, I'll be able to have those there. Also, at the very end of the presentation, there's an opportunity to fill out this form that will have a place for you to put your questions as well. So we'll just hold questions, and I'm more than happy to answer them. It just probably won't be during this 30-minute session. So we'll go ahead and get started. And I wanted to kind of set the tone with this quote. There's nothing unhealthy about educating youngsters about nutrition. This is by Pierre Duquin. And I just thought this was a good thing to keep in mind as we go through this presentation, because there's not too young of an age to start involving your children in their health decisions and nutrition-related behaviors. And hopefully it'll set them up for a lifelong sort of healthy eating and healthy choices. So moving right along, we're first going to talk about creating a balanced diet. And we've probably heard a lot of positive things in regards to eating a balanced diet or a balanced meal and how that can positively affect our physical health. So we're going to break it down. We're going to break it down by these food groups here. So you can see in this little pie chart that 25% of your diet, you want to aim for that to be proteins. And we have lots of examples on page 4 of your handout of these different food groups. So if you wanted to see here, but some examples would be lean meats, beans, poultry, fish and seafood, nuts, seeds, and other soy products. And then another 25% of your diet should be consisted of carbohydrates. And specifically when we talk about carbohydrates, we're talking about whole grains. We want to aim to make half of our grains that we eat whole grains. So whole grains basically just means the whole kernel. So things like quinoa and barley, legumes, potatoes, things like that. Even oats, beans, vegetables. And then you can see almost half of our diet we want to be fruits and vegetables. And this sometimes can be the difficult part because it is such a big part of the diet. However, these sorts of fruits and vegetables, you should try to aim to vary them so you get the great nutrients from different vegetables and fruits, and kind of switch it up so you don't get bored of one. And then finally, the last 10% would be consistent of healthy fats. And we'll talk a little bit more about the difference between healthy and unhealthy fats in just a moment when we put it into practice. So when we're forming a healthy meal, that was kind of the breakdown of your whole diet overall. But when we're forming a healthy meal and we go to the grocery store, we're trying to plan out what we're going to eat for dinner, this is a healthy meal formula you can kind of follow and guide your choices for meals. So you would start with 1 protein, 1 non-starchy vegetable, meaning asparagus, mushrooms, cauliflower, basically just no potatoes in that section. 1 carbohydrate, so this could be those whole grains, quinoa, even sweet potatoes or whole wheat pasta, brown rice, those are all great. And then finally, end it off with a healthy fat. And that could be as simple as cooking your food in like an olive oil or canola oil, or it could be slicing up some avocado to put on top of your meal afterwards, or topping it off with nuts as well. So whenever we think about the healthy fat too, one thing I wanted to mention here was, as an adult, you want to move towards low fat or fat-free milk if you are drinking milk and yogurt. However, for children under 2 years old, it's recommended that it's the full fat, just whole milk until their growth rate has steadied out. So I just wanted to mention that there. But I would love to take this time for you guys to put this into practice and be able to actually create a healthy meal of your own. So if you have that handout handy on page 4 at the bottom, there's the healthy meal formula and then some examples of the different food groups we talked about. And just keep in mind when you're picking out a protein, vegetable, carbohydrate, and healthy fat, some things that you and your family would both enjoy. Like we talked about last week, some of our picky eaters might not enjoy the specific vegetable you pick out, but try to think of some, like one thing out of this formula that everyone in your family could eat. So go ahead and pick out your favorite protein, whatever you want this healthy meal to consist of, the protein that it's going to kind of work around. And as a reminder, this could be chicken, it could be lean meats like beef, lamb, pork, other fish and seafood and dairy products, beans, lentils. And then when you have that, move on to the non-starchy vegetable. So whatever vegetable you would like or your family would like, broccoli, tomatoes, mushrooms, peppers, onions, cauliflower, and then a carbohydrate. So it could be quinoa, barley, legumes, other whole grains like oats, even beans and vegetables. You can see some of these things kind of double dip in the different food groups. Like legumes have a lot of great nutrients, which we'll talk about when we talk about macro and micronutrients. So whatever you think you would like there. And then lastly, how you incorporate those healthy fats. So again, this can come from vegetable oils like olive oil or canola oil. And then it could come from nuts and seeds, again, kind of double dips there. Or even fish, fatty fish like salmon or tuna. And then finally, your healthy meal needs a fun, creative name so you can present it to your family. So if you'd like to come up with a name for your dish, what you're going to call it. And then when you're done with that, if you're joining us on Zoom, if you want to drop this in the chat so other people can get ideas of healthy meals as well, feel free to do that. Highly encourage sharing ideas. Right. So that's basically the idea of creating a healthy meal. And if you're creating a healthy meal and you're eating a balanced diet overall, this next portion, you won't really have to worry about too much because you're probably getting the correct amounts of micro and macronutrients in your diet already, unless you have a specific health condition or your doctor tells you you need to track these things. You probably don't need to track them too closely. But there are interesting to learn about, so we're going to talk briefly about macro and micronutrients. So macronutrients is what our body needs in a large portion. So macro, large, we need a lot of them for survival and just basic bodily functions. So those things would be carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. And that kind of makes sense because those make up the majority of our balanced diet, 25% carbohydrates, 25% proteins, and 10% fat. So that makes sense that we need a large amount of those things. And then when it comes to micronutrients, our body needs them in smaller amounts, but they're still critical for a lot of different body functions, like growth hormones, creating growth hormones, helping our hair, teeth, and skin be healthy, even vision. And those things would be vitamins and minerals. And like we've talked about in the past, not all foods are created equally. So when you're consuming these macronutrients and micronutrients, there's some things to keep in mind. So when it comes to consuming carbohydrates, we briefly talked about you want to make half of your grains whole grains. So choosing whole grain breads and whole grain cereals for extra fiber and fullness. Another tip would be to include a variety of fruit and vegetables and even legumes and dairy every day. And then the third tip for consuming carbohydrates would be to enjoy those cake and chocolates and sweets, but in small amounts. Do that in moderation. And then for consuming protein, think about choosing lean meats, like we talked about, beef, pork, and then including fish 1 to 2 times per week. You can try canned tuna or salmon to make it a little bit more convenient for you. You can put it on a sandwich or crackers or in a salad even. And then tip number 3 for consuming proteins would be to add legumes like chickpeas or lentils to different dishes, some dishes that your family might already enjoy. So curries and bolognese sauce for added protein 1 to 2 times per week. And then pro tip for consuming fat would be to limit coconut oil. So like I said, we were going to talk about the difference between kind of healthy and unhealthy fats. Saturated fat and trans fats are considered the unhealthy fats. You really want to try to steer clear of those as much as possible and try to swap those out for unsaturated fats like olive oils and canola oil. Coconut oil is 92% saturated fat. So when you can, swap out coconut oil for something that has more unsaturated fats like olive oil. And then also cutting the fat off of meat before you cook it rather than after. And the last tip for consuming fat would be to snack on a handful of nuts as a source of healthy unsaturated fats. And it also keeps you feeling full throughout the day as well. When we talk about micronutrients, so consuming vitamins and minerals, children specifically need vitamins A, B, C, D, E, and K. So these vitamins can be found in a lot of different foods, whole foods that we've already talked about. So whole grains, legumes, lentils, nuts, seeds, animal proteins, all those things consume or contain these vitamins that are needed. And then these vitamins also, they help us have healthy bones, vision, skin, hair, and even prevent certain diseases. So they are very important. Also, some other food groups that contain vitamins would be milk, eggs, carrots, spinach, fish, and seeds. So again, a lot of those whole foods that we talked about. With minerals, kids need calcium, iodine, iron, and zinc. And a lot of the times minerals, the minerals that can be found deficient in our bodies would be calcium, iodine, iron, and zinc. So again, those whole foods, I'm not going to reiterate them again, but those same whole foods have a lot of those great minerals as well. So you can kind of think of an easy way to get these vitamins and minerals instead of having to supplement them is just to get them through your diet and eating these whole foods that we've talked about. And I did want to mention that it's not always better to have these things in large amounts. Vitamins and minerals in large amounts can actually be very dangerous. So like I said, you probably don't have too much of a need to track these things super closely if you're eating a nice balanced diet, but just be aware that these things in large excessive amounts could be dangerous to your health. And so the next thing I wanted to talk about would be how to read a nutrition label. And I think this is really a valuable point, some valuable knowledge to have, especially when you're in the grocery store. You can use your knowledge of reading nutrition labels to compare different items and what is going to be the healthier choice for you and your family. And also in the pantry, if you're going to pick a snack, you might decide between these 2 different items that you have in the pantry by reading the nutrition label. So if we can, I'm going to pull up this video.
Making healthy choices using the.
Please let me know in the chat if you cannot hear or see this video. I think I changed the settings appropriately. Okay, we're gonna watch this quick video. I think the FDA does a really good job at explaining the basics of how to read a nutrition label, and then we'll kind of debrief afterwards. So it's only 3 minutes, not super long.
Nutrition Facts Label. Choosing a packaged food or beverage that's right for you is easier when you check out the Nutrition Facts label. It's designed to help you compare foods and make healthy choices. The label has 4 key sections that help you weigh your options: servings, calories, percent daily value, and nutrients. And all this information is at your fingertips. Let's size up servings. Servings per container shows the total number of servings in the entire package or container. Serving size is based on the amount of food that is usually eaten at one time, and the nutrition information listed on the label is usually based on 1 serving. Since packages can and often do contain more than 1 serving size is an important thing to know when you're deciding how much to eat or drink during the day. Let's check out calories. 2,000 calories a day is used as a general guide for nutrition advice, but your calorie needs may be higher or lower depending on your age, sex, height, weight, and the amount of physical activity you get each day. Curious about how many calories you need? Learn your number at choosemyplate.gov/myplateplan. Calories can quickly add up, so here's a tip. 100 calories per serving of an individual food is considered a moderate amount, and 400 calories or more per serving of an individual food is considered high in calories. Let's look at percent daily value and nutrients, 2 sections of the Nutrition Facts label that work together. The percent daily value, also known as percent DV, can help you figure out if a serving of food is high or low in a nutrient. For example, 5% DV or less of a nutrient per serving is considered low, and 20% DV or more of a nutrient per serving is considered high. You can use percent DV to choose and compare food products. Aim to get less than 100% of the DV of saturated fat, sodium, and added sugars each day. These are nutrients to get less of in your diet overall. Read the labels on packaged foods and drinks to find out all the facts about servings, calories, percent DV, and nutrients. And making healthier choices will be a snap.
All right. Let me minimize this here. So yeah, I felt like the FDA did a good job in that video of just giving you a snapshot of how to read a nutrition label. And this might be old news for some people, so I do apologize. But like I said, I think it's a very valuable piece of knowledge to have at your fingertips. And one thing I did want to reiterate, they did state that the nutrition facts, the nutrition label is based off of 1 serving. So just keep that in mind. If you are eating more than 1 serving, you're going to have to multiply those numbers or add those numbers to create the right serving size. Another thing that they highlighted was the percent daily value. I thought this was something interesting that some people might not be super familiar with because it's a bunch of foreign percentages, but 5% or less of an item in a food or a drink, a beverage, would be considered a low amount, whereas if it's 20% or higher, it'd be considered a high amount. So if you look at this example I have on the screen here, if you want to drop in the chat, what is one item in this nutrition facts label that would be considered in a high amount in this food or beverage? Yes, I see dietary fiber. I see vitamin D. So remember that is 20% or more. So it looks like dietary fiber is at 25%. And then when we talk about on the lower end, that's 5% or less. So you can see some examples would be cholesterol is in a low amount. Added sugars would be considered a low amount. And also keep in mind, they did talk about limiting your added sugars and those trans fats, bad, unhealthy fats. So those are things just to get less in your diet overall. All right, so there is an example of this in your handout on page 5. So if you wanted to do that on your own time and check your answers, the answers are at the bottom of the page. So don't cheat, try to answer it, see, and then see how you do, check your knowledge. So one more example before we kind of wrap up. I wanted to talk about how branding can often be confusing, especially when it comes to trying to find whole grain foods. So here's an example, and we have bread, tortilla, dry cereals, cracker, or roll. And out of these lists of ingredients, can you identify which of these items would be considered whole grain foods? So drop that in the chat. You can drop A, B, C, D, or E. There might be multiple answers. I just want to see what you guys think, and then we'll talk about it. So again, just trying to pick one or more of these items here that would be considered a whole grain food. Yes, okay, so I see C, D, we had D again answered here. So yeah, if you picked B, C, or D, you would be correct. And the best way to identify what would be a whole grain food is simply if the first word in the ingredient list is whole. You can see we have bread that contains wheat flour and a roll that contains unbleached enriched wheat flour. These things would not be considered whole grains. You want to focus on looking for the word whole as the first ingredient list. And this can kind of get confusing because packaging and branding will put on there enriched with whole wheat flour or other sort of marketing tactics like that. But if you turn the box around and you see the nutrition label and you see the ingredients listed, it most of the time is not considered a whole grain food. So just be aware of that when you're picking out your whole grains for your meals and for your healthy diet in the grocery store or even in the pantry, now that you have this information. So that's all the information I had. Like I said, we are going to do an activity in person. So if you would like to stay, if you're on the Zoom call and watch what we do, kind of get some tips and tricks, you are more than welcome. If not, I do ask that you fill out this short post survey. It should only take like 5 minutes or less. At the end, like I said, you have an opportunity to ask any questions within that post survey. There's also, you'll be emailed a kid-friendly recipe guide. So if you fill out the survey, you get the recipe guide and also the chance for your questions to be answered. So I would really appreciate filling out the short post survey. Let me know what you liked and didn't like. It is anonymous too, so whatever your honest opinions are of this program, feel free to drop them there. I'm more than happy to look at your feedback and take it so we can kind of improve this program in the future. So with that, thank you all very much. We're going to do the activity now. So like I said, you're more than welcome to stick around if you'd like to do it yourself. So I'm going to take one of these guys here. So we're creating some fun celery snails or caterpillars. And if you didn't want to put in that much effort, we also have the faux donuts, apple donuts. So you could do that as well. These are just some fun little activities you can involve the kids in if you'd like. And basically to start, you'll just take one of your celery sticks here. And I have cream cheese too. So if you wanted to use cream cheese, you could either do like a sweet or a savory option if you want. And there's some picture examples up there too. So if you wanted to create a snail, you could use an apple as its back, or a kiwi. If you want to create a caterpillar, you can use some of those grapes as its little body segments, or cherry tomatoes. So I think I'm going to do peanut butter in mine. And then I just put this in a little Ziploc bag so it'd be easy to pipe in here, right in the center. And you get some protein from, it's kind of a fun way to incorporate fruits and vegetables, and then some protein and healthy fats from the peanut butter. And I think I'm going to do First here, a little apple snail shell. And then there's also pretzel sticks and chocolate chips for eyes and antennas. So, yes, there you go. Yeah, some of those pictures too, they use little nuts or walnuts or peanuts or whatever as the head. So you can do that too. Or you can just put another dollop of peanut butter. And I'm going to break my pretzel stick up here. So we've got two little antennas. Like I said, if you were short on time or just not feeling creative, you could always do the faux apple donuts too. Those are pretty good. Here's little miniature chocolate chips. Here. His eyes. Nothing seems to turn out like the pictures, right?
I know.
I think it's kind of fun. If you had like a whole plate, if I was a kid, I think this would be very visually appealing.
Yes.
And you can have them help with the process too. Maybe a little bonding experience. Yeah. Yeah. Fun. I'm gonna do my next. I might use the cream cheese for this next one too. Which one? Those are little candy eyes. The white one?
Well, I'm thinking of like, what head are they putting that on?
I think it's a little peanut.
Is it a peanut?
I think so. Either a peanut or some other sort of nut. I think it's a peanut though. I think that's what I'm going to do. A little caterpillar. They also used chopped up celery for one of the caterpillar bodies, which I thought was kind of cute.
Oh, yeah.
So some sweet or savory options, sure. You never know what you're gonna get from the grocery store either. So some of these like cherry tomatoes are bigger than the inside of the celery. Doesn't have to be perfect, it's just fun.
This is sweet and savory.
Yeah. I love it. Yeah, I'm kind of like stacking mine up together. I don't know how they got them to stand up in the picture, but I guess you could shave off like a little bit of the celery if you really wanted to at the bottom.
You can do anything in the pictures.
Exactly. Oh yeah, Photoshop.
Photoshop, and also sometimes it's not real.
It's true. Also cut the celery to be a different length depending on the fruit or vegetable. So there's that too. But of course, if you're doing this at home, you can make it however you like. That last one's too bad.
One second.
We like stick some eyes on this grape here. Anyways, did you have any questions or anything?
This is my phone.
So cute. So cute.
I have no idea if tomato and peanut butter taste.
Yeah, no idea. Also, like I was, deconstructed, I'm sure. It's gonna be great. Oh man.
I can't think of it right now, but I'm sure.
Yeah. Sounds good. It's definitely very interesting. There's a lot of information out there for sure. And so it's definitely hard to kind of sift through it. But I will say A lot of the good resources I found were either on myplate.gov. They had a ton of like kids resources, lots of worksheets and stuff to kind of get kids involved and ideas. That was a good resource. And of course, like USDA, FDA, all those other websites.
Say I've been looking at nutrition labels since I was about 10 years old.
Good for you. Good.
Been reacting to food.
Oh, yeah.
Probably my whole life.
That's definitely, that would be one reason to look, but at least you have the knowledge on how to do that. A lot of people don't, which is, yeah, like I said, I just feel like it's so important because advertising nowadays, marketing, there's a lot of things that aren't even regulated, but it makes it look regulated.
Or like natural flavors.
Yeah.
What is that?
What does that mean? Very,
They don't even know that.
exactly. Yeah, I was just reading something the other day. Organic, grass-fed, and pasture-raised are like the only terms that are regulated. Like they have to have some sort of proof. And cage-free, I think that was the other one. But any other terms like, what's a good example? Other like marketing terms they use. I know. This article had other examples, but now I can't think of a single one. Those are the ones that stood out to me. If I think of it, I'll continue that thought. I just thought that was interesting. Like, organic, grass-fed, these sorts of things are really the only terms that matter, that count.
Yeah.
You know? Nice. Well, feel free to eat these, and if you'd like to take some extras, you can. And if anyone's still on here, works at Professional Park, if you would like some extra fruits and vegetables and such, we're in B117. So if you want to come down here, I'll probably be cleaning up until a little before 1. So you're more than welcome to come grab some stuff if you work here at Professional Park. And go ahead.
My hands are clean.
Okay.
Things to use.
No, you can walk back, because I still have extras over here, so if you'd like to take a Ziploc baggie or stuff, you're more than welcome. Yes. Nice. Yeah. Oh, there you go. That's great. Great. Bye, everyone. Thank you for joining. Bye. There we go.